Hello, you guys. Hopefully you are having a great e-learning day. I have a new Elmo, so hopefully this will take in just one go, and I won't have to split the videos up into pieces like I usually do. So we are going to tackle the last section of our notes today in Chapter 7, and today we're just going to work some more with proportions and triangles, and this should be a fairly easy section. It's a good one to do outside of the classroom because it shouldn't be too awful, and it should be, like I said, pretty simple, so hopefully you guys will catch on pretty quickly. But if you do not, remember you can always send me a message and remind. You can always email me. I'll be at school checking my email, checking my phone, things like that. So do not hesitate to send me any questions that you have. So we're going to start off today with a theorem, which we really haven't had a lot of this chapter, called the side splitter theorem. And it says if a line is parallel to one side of a triangle and intersects the other two sides, then it divides those sides proportionally. So I decided to color code it for you. So if I have QR over RX, it's going to be equal to QS over SY as long as these lines are parallel, okay? It's different from the problems we've been working on earlier this week where we couldn't do this because these were not parallel lines, or at least we didn't know that they were parallel lines, okay? So using this is really easy. Problem 1, I'm going to zoom in. We're going to try to find X. So I'm going to set this up. Sorry, I'm not used to how this zooms in. There we go. All right, so we're going to set this up using that same proportion as above. So I'm going to do 12 over x plus 1. So 12 over x plus 1 equals 9 over x. Then we're going to cross multiply again. So I'm going to take 12 times x, and I get 12x. I'm going to take x plus 1 times 9. And then I'm going to distribute. So I get 12x equals 9x plus 9. I'm going to subtract over the 9x, and I get 3x equals 9. So x is 3. And then we are finished. Okay, so it's a very, very easy setup to use. So then the one directly below this, we're going to try to find A. And so we're going to set up the same type of proportion. I'm going to do A over A plus 4 equals 12 over 18. And then cross multiply. So I have A times 18, A plus 4 times 12. And I am going to move this over just a little bit since I don't need my picture anymore. And so I have 18A equals 12 times A plus 4. So 18A equals 12A plus 48. Subtract over the 12A, and I get 6A equals 48. So A, when I divide both sides by 6, gives me 8. All right. So that is using the side splitter theorem. Now we also have a corollary to the side splitter theorem, which looks a little bit different. It's usually not set up as a triangle. Okay, so it's still the same type of deal. If I'm given a picture that looks like this, basically I can stack the pieces that are on the same line. So I can say AB over BC is going to be equal to WX over XY. Okay, so same type of deal. And we are going to use this a little bit on the next page. So let's head over there. All right, so in this, kind of like a word problem, kind of not, they give us this picture and they tell us that 3 campsites are shown in the diagram, and they want us to find the length of the site along, or site A along the river. So I'm going to call that X. We're looking for this length right here. We just want to know what that is. So I can use any combination of these numbers that I like, but really the only ones that I know are x, 8, 9, and 7.2 at this point. So I'm going to set up a proportion as, I'm going to start with this bottom side. I'm going to do 9 over 7.2. And that is going to be equal to x over 8. And then I'm going to cross multiply. So I'm going to do 7.2 times x, 9 times 8, and I end up getting 7.2 times x equals 72. And then I divide both sides by 7.2. And so I get x is 10, which means that the length of site A along the river is going to be 10, and we're measuring in yards. Okay, so not too terrible. Now the next thing that we want to do is we want to find the length of site C along the road. So I'm going to let that be y, just for the sake of keeping things simple. And I'm actually going to use the 7.2 and the 8 again, and then I'm going to use y and 6.4 to solve this. So I'm going to move this back over here. I think that should give us enough room. And so I'm going to set it up as 7.2 over y equals 8 over 6.4. Then I'm going to cross multiply, so I have y times 8, 7.2 times 6.4, so I get 8y, and this time I get a decimal, it's 46.08. Divide both sides by 8, and so we get y is 5.76 yards. And that is our distance of site C along the road. And then we're finished. So once again, the proportions are pretty easy. I hope this is making sense to you at home. But we have one more thing we need to talk about, and then we will be finished. So we also have one more proportion. Sorry, this thing zooms really, really fast. This is called the triangle angle bisector theorem. It says if a ray bisects an angle of a triangle, so here's our ray, then it divides the opposite side into two segments that are proportional to the other two sides of the triangle. So I can say that, I'll highlight these again for you, AC over AB is going to be equal to CD over DB. Okay, it's kind of strange. Usually you would think you would stack this on top of that and this on top of that. So be careful whenever you use this because it is set up a little bit differently. But that's okay because now we're going to use it to find x. We're going to solve for y in the last one, and then we are going to be done with chapter 7. All right, so our picture is kind of oriented differently, but if I were to flip this up, it would match up almost perfectly. So I'm just going to do my best with leaving it as it is so I don't have to redraw it. So we can set this up as x over 12 or 12 over x, however you want to do it, x over 12, so the two sides on the outside, and then I'm going to set up a proportion that matches it using the lengths along the top side. So it's going to equal 18 over 10. Then I'm going to cross multiply. I get 10x equals 216. Divide both sides by 10, and so x is 21.6. Then we're going to use the same exact proportion again, but we're going to solve for y this time in the last problem. So I'm going to stack y over 24. Remember, we have to do this side over this side, equals 9.6 over 16. Then cross multiply. So 16 times y will give me 16y. 9.6 times 24 is going to give me 230.4. Divide both sides by 16. So y becomes 14.4. All right, so I know that this is pretty quick. It's like a 10-minute video, so hopefully this made sense. If you need me to clarify anything for you, if you have any questions, do not be afraid to send me an email. I'll be checking, send me a remind, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can because I will be in trainings today. So just let me know what you need, and I'd be happy to answer them for you. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend. I'll see you guys on Monday.